Great. We're going to break down the real cost of one of the most common things we all buy. And spoiler alert, the biggest financial drain in your life, it might just be parked in your driveway. When you think about your biggest monthly bills, what comes to mind? Probably rent, right? Maybe taxes. But what if I told you the single biggest threat to your future wealth isn't either of those? What if it's something that feels totally, and I mean deceptively normal? And that leads us right into our first section here, what we're calling the normal car paradox. We're going to take a look at how a seemingly average lifestyle can actually be hiding this massive financial trap. Okay, so to make this really hit home, let's create a quick profile. We'll call her Alex. So Alex is 28, she lives in a mid-sized city, and she's making a pretty solid income, $70,000 a year. I mean, on paper, she's doing everything right. So that brings us to section 2, the monthly budget squeeze. Let's really dig into Alex's finances and see where all that money is actually going. Okay, so after taxes are taken out, that 70 grand salary leaves her with about $4,200 in take-home pay every month, right? That's the real number she has to work with for everything. Rent, food, savings, just life. And wow, you can see it just how fast that money gets spoken for. Rent, boom, $1,500. Groceries and utilities, that's another $800. Student loans, a story many of us know all too well, that takes out $300. And then you've got all those subscriptions, that's another $200. These are basically the essentials, the fixed cost of just being alive. So after all that, what's left? This, $1,400. This is her, disposable income. It's the money for savings, for going out, for emergencies, and yeah, for her car. And then here it comes, the car. A really normal monthly payment for a new or lightly used car is about $700 a month. I mean, you look at her income and that seems perfectly reasonable, doesn't it? It's only half of what she has left over. She can totally afford it, or so it seems. But, and this is so important, that $700 payment, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the beginning. You got to add insurance, right? That's another $150. Gas, let's be conservative and say $100. And you have to budget for maintenance, oil changes, new tires, all that stuff. So let's tack on another $100 a month for that. All of a sudden, this is a much, much bigger number. So here it is, the real monthly cost. That $700 car is actually a $1,050 expense. Let that sink in. That's over $1,000 leaving her bank account every single month just to keep this one normal car on the road. Okay, so what does that leave her with from that original $1,400? Just $350. That's it. That is for her entire life outside of her fixed bills. Savings, investing, emergencies, even just grabbing dinner with friends or a little weekend trip. It all has to come out of this tiny, tiny sliver of her income. And this, right here, is where that feeling of being stuck really starts to creep in. And that's the perfect transition into section 3, the true cost of driving. Because it's time we stop thinking about the monthly payment and start looking at the massive, long-term financial impact this thing has. This is where the big disconnect happens. We ask ourselves, can I afford $700 a month? That's how we perceive the cost. But the actual cost over a typical 5-year loan, when you add in all the extras, is more than $60,000. It's a totally different way of looking at the exact same decision, isn't it? But wait, it gets crazier. Even that 60 grand isn't the real cost. To get our heads around that, we need to talk about something called opportunity cost. It's a simple idea, but it is so powerful. Basically, every dollar you spend today is a dollar you can't invest for your future. It's all about the potential growth you're just giving up. So what if instead of making that car payment, you invested that same $700 a month? Let's say at a pretty standard 7% annual return. Just look at what happens. In 10 years, that grows to $120,000. In 20 years, it's nearly $350,000. This is the true cost of that car. It isn't just the money you spent. It's the future wealth you literally never gave yourself the chance to build. Okay, so if the math is this brutal, then why do so many of us make this choice? I mean, it's a great question. And that brings us to section 4, where we dive into the psychology of it all, why smart people fall for it. This quote really just nails it. See, Car companies are brilliant marketers. They don't try to sell you on a massive $60,000 price tag. No way. They sell you on an affordable monthly payment. And what does that payment really represent? A certain lifestyle, a certain identity.
So what's that identity made of? Well, it's the promise of comfort, for sure. It's a symbol of status, that shows you're doing well. It feels like progress in your life and career. And maybe the most powerful piece of all, it just feels normal. It feels like what everyone else is doing.
And that is the absolute key. When everyone around you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, they all have similar cars and they all have similar payments, it doesn't feel like a risky financial decision. It just feels normal. And in that kind of environment, our social perception of what's right quietly starts to become way more powerful than the cold, hard math. All right, so how do you escape this trap? That's what this is all about. Welcome to our final section, the freedom alternative. And this one is all about shifting your mindset. See, the common question we all ask is, can I afford the monthly payment? But the freedom question is totally different. It asks, what does this decision actually do to my long-term options? How does this limit my ability to invest or to change careers or to travel or to just be free? And that right there is the real goal, financial flexibility. This isn't about being cheap, not at all. It's about having options. It's the power to say yes to opportunities because you're not shackled by these massive monthly payments. That, my friends, is the definition of true wealth. So the really crucial takeaway here is this. Every time you take on a big long-term payment for something that loses value, like a car, you're making a trade. It's a quiet trade, but it's happening. You're trading your potential for long-term freedom for the short-term comfort and status of today. And the really scary part, you don't feel the true weight of that trade-off for years and years. And that really just leaves us with one final thought, a question for you to think about. Take a hard look at your own choices, at your own monthly payments. Are they building you a life with more options down the road? Or are you, maybe without even realizing it, choosing that short-term comfort over your own long-term freedom?